This is Week in One, a wrap of the top stories of the past week. And now to a family murder that has shocked South Africa. On Thursday, a memorial was held for the 3 members of the Van Breda family who were hacked to death in Stellenbosch. eNCA exclusively obtained a recording of the call to emergency services shortly after the murders. In it, a calm Henry Van Breda describes how his mother, father and older brother were attacked. Henry's 16-year-old sister Marley remains in intensive care with severe injuries.
It was an early morning bloodbath in an upmarket golf estate, somewhere usually so secure, where parents pay big money to bring their children up safely. Earlier, in the moments after the tragedy, Henry Van Breda phoned emergency services. This is the conversation which followed.
Okay, what kind of injuries is there?
My family and we were attacked by a guy with an axe.
What's an axe? Unconscious, this is unconscious, huh?
Yes, and bleeding from the head, please.
In the almost 5-minute-long call, Henry Van Breda explains the family's exact location on the upmarket De Zalze golf estate. Henry, now living with an uncle, escaped the attack with minor injuries. A family spokesperson says he is receiving counselling and being monitored. Leanne Jansen, Cape Town.
This week, current affairs program Checkpoint uncovered a shocking corpse hijacking scam. It's alleged that nurses and mortuary workers at Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital have been making cash from corpses.
One morning, the CBC family of Soweto received an unexpected visitor.
Siyangibiza umshana uthi malume kunobhuto ukumamoshari kanjalo yabo bona bayangcwaba ene bashiphi ngokungcwaba yabo. Manje udadewethu uyambuza utheni ungcwaba yini ungcwaba ubani useshonile yabona wathi uzwe ukuthi wakushoniwe yini la ekhaya ubani oshonile nabo uyasho ukuthi makhona mhlawumbe sekuvelile ngabo yasichazele yabo.
Angry and confused, they chased the man away.
Udadewethu wathole i-call yabo ukuthi makaphuthume ezesibhedlela yabona umshana wami vele useshiyile emhlabeni.
So the CBCs learnt of their son's death from an unknown undertaker. How did the undertaker find out before the family? Checkpoint spoke to Menzi, employed by several undertakers as a general worker. He alleges that Bara mortuary workers are paid to inform undertakers about deaths at the hospital. Names of the dead aren't the only thing on sale, mortuary worker Menzi says. They also let undertakers take bodies without consulting the families of the deceased. He calls it touting, although it sounds more like corpse hijacking.
Mangabe wena uni undertaker yangafiki nangesikhathi sibuyeke somfaka efridgini le shuthi singakavumelani nani family.
He says unscrupulous undertakers then illegally charge for mortuary storage that families didn't request.
Shuthi manizolanda umuntu lapha imali anokuyichacha uzofuna i-3,000 otherwise isidumbu uyasibamba ngeke siphume.
Menzi alleges nurses are key to the touting process. They are the first to notify undertakers of a death in a ward, he says.
I'm
quite shocked actually and disappointed that the practice has not stopped, and it clearly means that this person is financially, they've got something to gain, and that's why they're doing this thing, and will institute investigation.
With more than 2,000 funerals a month, the Ekurhuleni municipality east of Johannesburg is fast running out of burial space. Authorities say any available land is being prioritized for housing and development. They're now urging residents to consider non-traditional ways of laying their loved ones to rest.
It takes about 3 hours to burn an adult body. And at a cost of around 500 rand, it's much cheaper than a burial. The piece of land for a grave in a cemetery costs more than 2,000 rand. As it's running out of available land, the Ekurhuleni municipality is suggesting families consider cremating their loved ones.
The family doesn't have to look for an accommodation or a hall somewhere to pay. They use the chapel at the crematorium for free.
But some community members are skeptical.
No. Our traditions don't allow us to be burnt. The ancestors won't accept that. At home, we are still very traditional. When a person has died, all family members come to see their grave. How will they see them when they are cremated?
Authorities say that if no solution is found, they will have to start recycling old graves. Another option is putting up to 3 relatives together in a single grave.
Other families have now taken the decision to bury on top of other relatives.
The municipality is also suggesting the community consider public graves where 3 unrelated people are buried in the same space. Sikelelwa Keya, Johannesburg.
Education was in the spotlight this week as well. Government issued a stern warning about racial segregation at schools. Gauteng's Education MEC has now instructed a private Pretoria school to immediately halt the practice. Kuro Rudaplat was in the news after it emerged that black and white children were placed in separate classes.
All schools need to conform to South Africa's principles of non-racialism. That's the message from Gauteng Education MEC, Panyaza Lisufi.
I will not allow a grade R learner to be reminded about apartheid in this country.
The school has apologized and promised to rectify the situation.
We're going to work with the parents and then redivide the various classes.
The Human Rights Commission says it will be keeping an eye on the school.
Will now set out to monitor and make sure that any new processes that are put in place as regards class allocation happen in a constitutionally sound manner.
Parents are relieved by the proposed action.
I hope I'm sending this message to parents as well, that white and black, let's come together and teach our kids from home that another human being is another human being.
The school currently has no black teachers, but has pledged to diversify its staff soon. Tabang Masanabo, Rudaplat.
Staying in school, maths is one of the education department's biggest problems. Officials blame major curriculum changes for the drop in last year's pass rate. This week, we explored exactly what the problems are.
The number of pupils who choose to study mathematics in high school is dropping. Regulating body Umelusi says last year's maths results were one of the worst it's ever seen. The maths pass rate nationally last year dropped to 53.5% from the previous year 59.1%, with only a handful managing to ace the paper.
Umalusi blames the mind-boggling changes to the syllabus. Axioms, theorems, angles, planes and probabilities. The reintroduction of one of the oldest branches of mathematics, Euclidean geometry.
Only 5% of schools did that, and it led to an allegation that the mathematics had been watered down. So in response to largely public outcry, and also universities, particularly engineering faculties, geometry was put in the curriculum.
While some are wondering, when am I ever going to use this stuff? Others who enjoy solving for X could blossom into careers from structural engineering to computer programming.
I can't imagine how to teach maths or science successfully without explaining the basics of geometry. The circle, and maybe you've got cool 3D stuff, so when I draw a little line here and then I spin it, you'll do that in 3D on ETV.
Umalusi has pointed out that teachers should have been trained in teaching geometry when it wasn't part of the curriculum. But judging from the results, the monitoring body says it seems unlikely that training ever took place. Nontobeko Sibisi, Johannesburg.
Still to come, former President F.W. de Klerk is honoured, and we look at the Proteas send-off ahead of the Cricket World Cup.